If you're joining us online, welcome. I'm Jennifer Snowhite, and I'm the president of the PSO, actually the chair, I guess that's my title. We have a lot of folks who have joined us in person at UNCSA, and we're glad that you could be with us. Today is our first annual coffee talk, and I say annual. This is a tradition that started last year, and they became exceedingly popular as a way to ask questions to deans, heads of programs, anybody else that you might have questions of. So today we have Dean Martin Farrell, Associate Dean Brock Snyder, and two folks from Residential Life. We have Rachel Oladele, did I say that right?
You did.
And Michaela Seifert. So if you have questions about academics, testing, getting to know the academic team, if you have questions about your kids' residential life, you know, what's going on in the dorms, and also questions for commuter students, because you guys have tabs on them as well, right? So we have a link for Mitzi to, how do they get questions to you?
Email.
Okay, so email Mitzi, and that was in the email that was sent out yesterday or day before yesterday. So we can kind of take them as they come. And on that note, I hand things over to Dean Farrell.
Thank you. One more note about connecting remotely. If you have a Gmail account, you could also use the chat feature of the YouTube broadcast, and you can send them in that way too. Welcome. A little bit more about what Jennifer was saying connected to the timing of these. As she was saying, this is the second year we've done this, and the timing and focus of each of these that are coming over the next month are largely based on feedback from you about when and what focal points would be helpful. So if this is feeling like the wrong start time, that it would have been helpful to have this 10 days ago. Of course, we can't go back 10 days, but you know, we'd certainly take that to heart and make the changes going forward. So this is a general one. As Jennifer said, we have representatives from Student Life and from the academic program. We're happy to field dance or VA or any arts questions. We may end up sort of forwarding those on to those program directors. And just know that those program-specific coffee talks are coming over the course of the next month, so we can get a little more focused into those particular concerns.
Can I also add to that, Martin, that on Facebook, we posted this with a place where you could RSVP. And for the future coffee talks, if you do that, and we know that we're going to have a bigger group, we could hold it in a larger room. So please do let us know if you're coming. And if you're not on Facebook, email, is it okay to email Mitzi to let us know that they're coming?
Yeah.
Good.
So thank you. That's the introduction. We'll open it up to questions. As you're gearing up to ask, someone did send a couple in, and we can start with those as you're thinking of the next. We had one about, do our students have the opportunity to dual enroll at local colleges for college credit? And the answer to that is no. And it's primarily a scheduling issue. We just can't support that through our programs. Are there any resources for parents to connect with other commuters? And really, I think the best way to do that is through the PSO network and through the PSO Facebook group. If you're not on Facebook, you might consider.
Rachel, anything you want to add to that?
For the commuter parents specifically, the PSO is probably the best place.
Great. Okay.
For students, however, there are commuter PLs, which are peer leaders. And then Bobby is the supervisor of those peer leaders. And so there is a commuter network for students as well.
Right. Good.
Couple more. Are there are there only semester grades, no quarter grades? And then is only the year-end grade recorded or 2 semester grades recorded? We do have semester grades. We don't have a quarter report card the way you would in sort of a typical high school. But the way we handle that is we have a time exactly mid-semester, both semesters, when we do formal narrative reports, progress reports for every student in every class. Those are published through Easy Arts, and within that there's a formal grade update to an average snapshot at that time that you get. And I'll send out instructions for how to access that once we get there. In the fall, the publishing date of that is October 5th, which is the Friday just before fall break. So you'll have that information going into fall break. And then there's a couple weeks to make some adjustments if adjustments need to be made. And then a couple weeks later, we'll see you at Parents Weekend, hopefully, when we schedule the parent-teacher conferences. So it is exactly 2 weeks, actually, from the time of the publishing of progress reports to Friday the 19th when we hold the parent-teacher conferences. Our numerical or only letter grades recorded. The official record, the transcript that your child will get is just a letter grade. But we do minuses and pluses, and there's just a standard calculation that any other school would use to derive a GPA from that. We do not have weighted GPAs, and that's largely because we have students coming from so many different backgrounds. There would really be no way to sort of bring in all the different weightings and produce a unified transcript for each student. So we communicate that clearly to colleges and conservatories. They know that there's a place on these applications to check unweighted GPA, and we often hear it as a concern actually more from students coming in than from parents. But there's no negative effect on our students when they apply to schools, and I think that's borne out in our acceptances. Yeah.
So
Yes.
even if they are coming, like my daughter's a junior here, so even though she was coming from high school earning honors credit, it's just going to be no weighted all the way across when you look at her high school scores.
That's right.
Okay.
Those honors designations will stay on with those courses on the
Right.
transcript.
Right. I understand. And the same way for AP classes, you offer those,
We do.
but an A is an A.
A is an A.
Oh, boy.
Tough. They're tough.
But what they see is both the AP on the transcript, and then they see the AP scores, which attest to that student's level of achievement.
I got you.
And admissions offices are dealing with every manner of these, and plenty of. We're not the only school doing unweighted GPAs. I promise.
Well, and these are not the only students that are trying to maximize their GPA based on
Right.
classes they select.
Is it possible for a student to enroll someplace else to get an advanced math or science course? I'm thinking like calculus BC or something like that.
Yes, we do have a relationship with North Carolina School of Science and Math, and I would say every year we have maybe 2 to 3 students who will use their online options to enroll in higher level mathematics or sciences or a common. Yeah, our highest math that we can offer is calculus and AP. It's higher. Yeah.
Do you have any options for that? For English education? There are only 2 options, and also I advise to ask if there are higher level French.
Yeah, I mean, we provide as you were indicating, French and Spanish up through the third year. If you come in with a different language background or want to pursue advanced language study, we allow for online options for those. And your student would just work that out with BRAC and their schedule.
I will say that AP languages are hard to find online because of the AP curriculum requirements and the conversation piece. So we've had a couple of students inquire about AP Spanish and AP French, and it's North Carolina Virtual Public School does not offer those currently. So it's something that oftentimes has to be an outside endeavor on the parent and student's part to try to find that AP language course.
I have a question. Changing the subject to SATs, ACTs, and the SAT subject tests. First question is, how do you decide which ones to take? And the big mystery to me is, what are the subject tests for?
Sure. So SAT versus ACT, students may take either, and most schools will accept either. The guidance I give students, particularly that junior year, early in the junior year, was to be, if you have time and energy, take both. See which one feels the best, see which one produces the best score for you, and then as you move forward, put all your test prep energy into one or the other. Right? Subject tests are something that are becoming less popular now that the College Board has revamped the SAT. It may be that a specific school you're applying to may require the SAT and 2 subject tests, or they may require just the ACT only. If you take the ACT, just the ACT, there are no subject tests. So I guide students and parents to, that's not the first thing you seek out as a subject test. It would be after you've narrowed your college list down and you're starting that application process, does the school require a subject test? And it's becoming less and less of a requirement than it has over the past years.
Great, thank you.
And do you have any resources for coaching, preparation, or?
For the SAT, we do offer SAT prep workshops, and we'll be starting those in October. The weekend we return from fall break, we do those over Sunday afternoons for 3 Sundays leading up to the November 3rd SAT, which is on campus here. And that is just for our students, that testing date here on campus. ACT, we don't have a formal workshop program, but we receive prep materials from ACT. I got a box load in last week of test prep books. And we're happy to assist and give those to students.
It's been a long time since I've taken SAT.
Not as long as it was for me.
Exactly. So subject-wise, English, math?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing else?
And the essay is optional on both the ACT and the SAT now. Okay.
What's your recommendation?
I know, how did they decide
Yeah.
whether they?
I recommend that you probably, it's good to have one essay score, but depending on where you apply, for instance, the UNC schools, they don't require essay, okay? So again, it's good to have one essay score, at least under your belt, in case you do apply to a school that does require an essay.
If you're applying to Yale, they're probably going to say, rate that essay.
Yeah, maybe a subject test.
Along these same lines, but switching a little to the PSAT, I see you recommend it where it's required for the 11th grade, but what about other grades? At other schools in the area, I think they give it either in 9th or 10th grade or offer it.
We do the PSAT 10, and we do that in the spring.
Okay.
We have a testing window that falls, I think, somewhere between March and the end of April, something like that. We find the appropriate day that works, and we'll offer it for our 10th graders. It'll be offered free for all our 10th graders, as we do for the juniors. It's free.
What is the date for the juniors? Because
yeah,
there was some confusion on that.
It is, it is October the 3rd.
It's either the 13th or the 15th.
It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday.
Yes,
Okay.
it's a Saturday, so I think that is the.
It is the 13th.
13th,
It's
okay.
the same day as Winston-Salem Pride.
Yes.
No,
I was going to say, the kids are being kind of loud about that,
Yeah.
actually.
My name is John. So my daughter is an international student. She's a fresh student, transferred to this school. So I have a question. So I don't know the examination system in US. Does everyone has to take the SAT or ACT to apply for music college?
No, sir, not everyone. And international students will take, oftentimes take the TOEFL. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's a language
Yes.
test.
Yeah, and that would substitute for, that would be a substitute for an SAT or ACT score. That would be instead
For
of,
example, if my daughter wants to apply for music conservatory in US, does she has to take a SAT or ACT?
no, sir.
No.
No, if she's a non-English speaking student, English as a second language, they will require the TOEFL,
TOEFL, that's
Yes.
a language, I know.
but they will not require that student to take the ACT or the SAT.
Okay. So I received a mail from PSO. So it says there's a PSAT. I don't understand what's a PSAT.
Has nothing to do with the PSO. Two different things.
Yeah,
It's a
sorry.
practice
It's okay.
for the SAT. It's really it's a practice for the SAT.
Practice.
Yeah, and
Pre-examination,
exactly.
yes.
something like that.
yes, yes. And so an international student may want to take the PSAT. It's not going to have any effect on any college admissions, but it might be a good gauge to see how they do and how, that they don't have to take that.
Sorry, I have few more questions.
Sure.
Okay, so,
Yeah, please.
I heard that during the vacation, so the residents all will be cleaned up. So all the means that all the staff of the students has to move out. So but there is some problem for international students. Yeah, if she move out a lot of things, how does she do? How does she do to?
So the only time that she has to move out is in May for the summer.
For summer vacation.
Mhm. That's the only time students have to move out. We use the buildings for summer school.
Okay, so
There is storage units.
what's the solution for international?
There are storage units and things around that you could use. We have tons of out-of-state students who do that.
It's storage
Mhm.
in the school. Or,
No, sir.
So we have to find a storage for our child.
Mhm.
Can help you.
Yeah, we can help. That we have people that
It's
we.
okay.
Yeah, there's people that we've used that we've recommended in the past.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. And also, I receive a lot of mails from Canvas system, but it's strange that I cannot log in to review.
What?
Canvas.
Canvas
Okay,
system.
yeah.
So I cannot log in, and I followed
Opting out.
up the instructions day by day, but I didn't receive any mail regarding the password. So I
I
cannot
had the
log in.
same problem, but I insisted.
Is that all it takes is being insistent?
If you,
Did you
if you,
insist with a human being? Or just
With
with the computer?
machine.
Okay. Good.
we could talk after this. I think I can help you get
Okay, thank
your account activated. I will say, make one other note about Canvas. Sort of annoying function of the Canvas system is that we have no control over the auto notifications that go out. You have to turn those off as a user. And so if you don't want to receive those, there's a little link at the bottom of every one of those emails that you can click on, and it'll lead you through sort of reducing the sheer volume, because it generates one every time you do something in there. And of course,
Yes, my daughter sneezed and.
yes. Sneezing.
Now, if I turn it off on my side of Canvas, does it affect what my son is getting if he
No,
wants something
no.
different? So it just affects
He would need to
Okay.
do it for himself too. Yeah. Sorry.
Just provoke conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how?
With
You got a
Great
lot.
Yeah, no, I
Review
understand.
the details.
I understand.
Did any of the teachers go over Canvas with the students?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and they all use it in various ways. And so if there's something connected to assignment submission or, anything like that, they're asked explicitly to go over that process with their students. We require teachers to use the attendance function and the gradebook function, but it is a teacher's choice as to whether or not they publish those grades. So.
Is it also a choice if they publish attendance?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that attendance record is not the official attendance record.
That's what I was told.
That's the way we capture the initial data, and it gets sent to Mitzi, and then Mitzi and Brock sort of verify absences and tardies, and then it goes into an official record.
I just have one of three. Well, my daughter was just out sick last week, and I have one of three who, and every time he takes attendance, just like you say, I get a daily attendance, but the other three I get nothing from. So he could turn that off so we didn't get it every day.
Okay. I'll look into that, Kelly.
You can't turn selectively,
Well,
like you'd have to
It's
turn
just-
all of
but
them.
it's in the way you
the
set up
teacher
your
could
attendance.
do it
Yeah.
possibly. But on the, I was gonna say something about on the other hand of that, I can't get into the attendance otherwise as a parent that I know of. Do you know how to do that?
No, I don't. No, I don't think that's one of the observer
I don't think it is.
permissions. But if you
I tried, I could not find a way into it.
if you ever have a question about sort of where things stand, just emailing or calling Mitzi.
Well, that, I just asked that teacher since he was the only
Yeah,
one
yeah.
who had it. I mean, I knew she was out, but I thought maybe he didn't get the excuse note, and so we worked it out, but I was just curious if I missed something.
Yeah.
That chair.
There's Mackenzie. Actually, as long as Mackenzie provided us with this break, anybody who came in a little later, there is coffee and cream, sugar, and snacks up there. So please come help yourselves. And I wonder if that's going to double our numbers for next Friday. I mean, who knows?
Kelly, I know in a couple of cases, there's been a request from students to be able to view attendance, and there's a somewhat convoluted process to allow that to happen.
Right.
In the way you set it up. And I guess what I don't know at this point is if it sounds like if it gets enabled for students to view, it's probably also
Well,
sharing
when I
that with
sent in
you.
the note last week, I had to come here and get her. And so when I sent in the note, I didn't get an immediate response. We've got your note, which is typical. And then I was like, maybe this didn't go through. That's what started my search and trying to figure out if I could determine it on my own. And I just could not get into an attendance on my own. So I don't know. But
Okay, thank you.
Wondering if you could share a little bit about host families.
Sure.
Sure. So the host family program is something that started, years ago, and is really an amazing program and opportunity for students. When you hear some of the host families talk about it, I kind of tear up sometimes when they talk about it because they're so sweet about it. But they are local families that have a connection in some way, either to the arts or to the institution, that want to give back and have connections with young emerging artists. And so they go through a process of a background check and applying, and then the students can fill out an application, and we do a matching process so that I know last year there was a student who had like a really great connection. He was an organist, and then there was an organist that was a host family opportunity. And so they were a really amazing match. And host family parents have stored students' things over the summer, and they come. They'll pick them up on Sunday for church. They will students just want to get off campus. We've even had host family students who went into the college and still just wanted opportunities to get off campus and have called their host families from when they were in high school and said, hey, like, can I just come over and hang out for dinner or something? And then there's also the opportunity for those, I try to go to as many shows as I can. When I go, I'm there for all of the students. And so sometimes it's nice for students to have someone who's there specifically for them. Like they came to watch you perform or to see your show. And so it's a really great opportunity for the students to kind of build a connection with a local family. Some of them have kids around the same age and they form relationships. Some of them form relationships with that host parent based on an art they share. So it's various things. And they kind of make those relationships what they want them to be. Sometimes it's that the student is just like, hey, can you take me to the airport? Fall break, Thanksgiving break, winter break, spring break, see you next year. Sometimes it's more. So it kind of just depends on the relationship that the student wants to have, that the parents want to have, and the host family wants to have.
You answered all my questions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
So I know they were making host family matches last week. We actually still just got more applications this week. And we're planning, so what we try to do is plan an initial dinner that we host either at a host family's home. This year we're looking at maybe having it at Camel City Barbecue downtown because they have like an arcade and stuff. So we thought that might be more interactive. So we're kind of looking at that still, but we'll do a initial host family dinner to kind of give the students a chance to meet their host family in an environment where we're all hanging out. And that is slated to happen in October.
Great, thank you. Sorry. So, does it need a student apply for host family herself?
Yes, you can help the student with the application. The student can fill out the application, turn it into Miss Terry at the front desk, and then she turns it into the host family program, and they'll do some matching.
Okay, so she needs to apply by herself. If she doesn't apply,
she won't. No, we don't automatically give them out.
Okay. So she will find a form online.
The form's online. You can print it out, or you can stop by the desk at the high school in the Miss Terry has printed applications if you want to pick one up.
So who should she to go to?
Miss Terry at the front desk.
Front desk.
Of the connector. She has applications already, and Miss Terry actually is the staff member who works the closest with the host family and works with them to make sure the matching is working out, and she plans the dinner and everything. So Miss Terry is a great resource to ask questions.
On the front desk at the residence hall.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We already have. How far away do you have to be to have a host family?
Historically, they were saying that students need to be out of state. We have so many host families that are interested. We never have enough students to fulfill all of the families that we have. So I say if your student wants a host family, I think it's a great opportunity and a great way to make a connection. So I think that any student who wants a host family, like, let's give out host family. Like, I'm be like Oprah, you get a host family, you get a host family. Yeah.
Host families all around.
And then, students have come to me as well. So sometimes there's a student right now that has a host family, and her friend now is like, well, can your host family be my host family too? And they want to go, because they want to go together when they go on breaks and like stay with their host family. So we've talked, as long as the family's okay with it, I'm okay with it. So we're pretty flexible.
Do you have to pay for the host family?
No, sir.
That's great. Thank you.
My question is for Brock. On the senior reference letters, they go in and request them from the teachers. Is that just for academics, or do we use the same system for arts reference letters?
Yes, so what we're doing with arts reference letters, we're having, as soon as that student knows who that arts reference letter will come from, they're giving us that faculty member's name and email, and we're putting them into that Naviance system so they can see that faculty member in the drop-down menu of faculty to invite. Faculty can also send hard copies of those letters if they choose to do that.
Okay, so they should request it from the arts person, give them their
Yeah.
name, say it's been requested, and then it will be available.
Yep, give me or Ms. Malone the name, and then we will put that arts faculty into our teacher list. Okay. And I have a question I'll address about the PSAT. Again, it's about, can students take the PSAT earlier than junior year? And the answer is yes. And we offer the PSAT 10 in the spring semester in March. That helps that question.
Or they could sign up on their own, right?
With PSAT, I mean, the PSAT is a school-based test, so they would take it here. And we register all our 10th graders and our 11th graders to take the PSAT.
So they could take it in school, 10th grader.
That's correct. Yeah, they need to take it here. Okay, another question. SAT, so we have someone's trying to sign up for the November 3rd SAT, which is at UNCSA, and they can't see UNCSA in the drop-down box of test sites, most likely. That's because we're a closed test center. We only test our students. So to get access to the UNCSA test site, you have to actually be in the registration process. You can't just search the site before you start to register, or you won't see the site. It won't come up. We do have a test center number, which is 34858. 34858 is our test center number. Okay, but again, you have to be in the process of the registration, and when you get ready to select the site, at that point you'll be able, because you'll be tagged as a UNCSA student by using our school code, which is 344438. That attaches that student to UNCSA High School, and at that point, they'll be able to select the UNCSA High School or North Carolina School of the Arts Test Center.
And those numbers are the last two Friday emails I've sent out, and will be in the MySA, parent MySA email that's coming out the first of next week.
You also do transport them to spring tests elsewhere, right?
Yes, great question. So a student may take the SAT or ACT on any date that it's offered, and if they're here in Winston-Salem on that weekend, the transportation office provides a van or bus, depending on the number of students, to Parkland High School, which is a couple of miles away from here.
Are the parent-teacher conferences only with their academic teachers, or do they meet with their artistic disciplines?
Those are with their academic teachers.
Which is not to say you couldn't schedule them with.
But they're not routinely necessarily.
Right. I mean, not our office just sort of does a blanket scheduling for academic teachers.
I had a question about the schedule. Our daughter started music violin, and her academic classes start at 10. But she comes at 8. So this period, 8 to 10, is meant to be for practicing. Is it monitored in some way? Can she do homework if she practices at home, or is there flexible?
Some of that would depend on the requirements of her music instructor.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just declared sort of an open practice block, she and doesn't have to report to some adult. She could absolutely do homework, go to math center, practice. Yeah. Graduation question.
All right.
The question is graduation held on campus or in an off-site venue? It has been and will be held at the Stevens Center. Our family's designated a certain number of tickets. Yes, is it 8?
It's 8, but unlike college, there's always additional tickets that students can apply for. And that has not been a problem in the past, in getting those additional tickets.
And there is a formal process, I believe it starts in March, through which you you request the number of tickets, and if you want to make additional requests, you can do it then. Sorry. Students seem to have to print out assignments for class, for example, English. Where can they use a printer? So we have a printer for student use in our office. There are two laptop computers that are hooked up to a printer. It's open to students to use, and we just purchase paper for it. In the old days, when I was in a coffee shop, there's a push to go paperless. It's interesting. I'm teaching a class of seniors right now, and I asked them what they preferred. And I came the first day without any handouts of my syllabus or my semester 1 assignments, and I had posted them in Canvas for them. And they all, to a person, said, we would prefer to have the paper copy that I could put in my binder and mark on and reference. So I'm bringing copies, double-sided copies to class.
There's also a printer in the high school, and there's also the library.
Thank you. Yeah, they have access to it.
The printer you said was in your office. Is that the office on the third floor?
Yes.
302.
And they can just go in.
Yeah.
anytime.
It's not in the, one of our kind of closed off rooms. It's sort of a lobby-ish area, and there's a copier in there too, and a hole puncher and all sorts of things. Yeah. And paper, they're pretty good about refilling the paper too. If a student is planning an absence for an audition, et cetera, professional reasons, is there a form for them to complete? How far in advance should they inform the teachers of the planned absence? So I know we sort of have a ridiculously long attendance policy. It is because we're trying to account for different programs and different permutations of absence and classifications of absence, some of which are determined by art schools, some of which are determined by us, and some of which are determined by our being part of the UNC system. So I apologize for that. And if you get bogged down in all those details, call us at any time and ask just this sort of question. For a planned absence, we ask, if you can, that you do this planned absence form, which the student does a planned absence form that we have in the office, that they do that a week ahead of time, if possible. And the purpose of this form is to get them to have a face-to-face conversation with each of their teachers. It's a planning document. We ask that they do it, not after classes started, but in sort of a calmer time. There's a box for teachers to write in the form about assignments that they might be able to do while they're away, that sort of thing. And it gives them a chance to go ahead and start making arrangements for what that makeup work scenario is going to look like. Obviously, opportunities arise that don't conform to the week window, and we're understanding of that. But that is the process. Did I get all of that question?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, the early one. This one.
Yeah, again, we have a special sort of absence allowance for second semester seniors because we know that they have auditions, a lot of them for the art schools they might be applying to. So, a senior can be absent 12 days, 12 classes they can miss.
First semester and second combined.
No, just second semester. They're in the same classification as everyone else first semester. You get 8.
And for playing in a youth orchestra, for instance, is there some more allowance?
Do you mean a performance here on campus, or?
No, daughter is in a French orchestra.
Okay, great question. We would work those out on sort of a case by case basis. We do have some UNC requirements about sort of the length or consecutive days missed for something like that. But we do try to work with students, for when they have professional opportunities that come up. And sometimes we're able to make it work, and sometimes we're not. But certainly for something like that, we can bend the attendance, the absence threshold.
I'm curious about curriculum development and about kind of the relationship between teacher autonomy and maybe a larger unit, say all of the English or all of the Spanish teachers in the high school. Like how does that work? How much do they function like as a department? Do they think about year to year? Do they each kind of develop their own thing? Can you tell me more about that? Sure,
that's a great question. Our teachers have a fair amount of autonomy in the classroom to develop their curricula. Our departments do behave very much as departments, and where the curriculum alignment comes into play is really on the sort of skills development side. And that's both an institutional charge as well as a departmental charge. So they've been asked to identify core skills and develop departmental assessments around those skills to begin collecting data. They administer those assessments at certain points. They're different depending on the department. Collecting that data, and then all of that gets turned into me in May. And I try to make sort of the reporting of it a little more consistent and ask some questions, and then we have meetings about that and what might be sort of the next set of steps for developing that skills curriculum. And then I pass that on to the institutional effectiveness office, which is it's sort of a college office. And they handle a lot of the data reporting for the school. There are absolutely departmental conversations about content connections, but that's also pretty department dependent. We do ask departments on a 5-year cycle to do a curriculum review, where they will contract with an outside reviewer, and that person will come in. I think historically it's been kind of a broad content overview where the person will come in and do a series of observations of classes, collect syllabi and other major course documents, do an analysis of reading lists, and then produce a report that would come to the person in my position and the department. Jessica, that was started under my predecessor, and I believe that we're beginning the second round of those. For a long time, the college liberal arts and high school liberal arts were one. And I think, that they've been split off for a while now, but, in some ways the school is still working out how to be a better high school. And I would say on the teaching and curriculum side, a lot of that is pretty well figured out. Vestiges of kind of the unity of the programs might be a little more teacher autonomy in the classroom than you might see in a typical public school, which I think is valuable. I think this kind of thing, sort of parent service, the student high school experience, is something we're still working on. And the coffee talks are, a very small part of that. I don't know. I mean, I think Canvas is a wonderful example. We've had Canvas for 2 years now. But this is the second full year. I think that's right. But that was a UNCSA big institution adoption with without a whole lot of consultation with the high school. And you know, if you're only a high school, there would have been. I mean, there was a robust process. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bad mouthing the school, but you know, the kind of training that would be set up for teachers and sort of getting them comfortable with it. You know, we've been developing a lot of that ourselves because it's more. I mean, that's just one way that we function more as a university at times, and high school is kind of small. So that's basically a tortured plea for more feedback. We're trying to pay attention to this high school experience and having it be truly a high school experience, catering to the needs of high school parents and high school students. So, you know, help us get the right balance with that, because we want to get it right.
I just want to say that my son said last week, is high school supposed to be this fun? I was like, I'm not sure what you mean by fun, but no, not usually. So it seems like it's going well.
I hope that continues.
Do students sign up for the SAT prep course, or can they just show up?
They sign up, and sign-ups begin on Tuesday next week. We'll have sign-up sheets out at Ms. McNeil's desk.
Yes.
And they can sign up for math and reading, or they can sign up for the individual three course workshop in just math or reading.
And it's 3 Sundays?
3 Sundays in the afternoons. Traditionally, it started around 1:30, and from 1:30 to 2:30, and then from 2:45 to 3:45. Those exact times, Mr. Bohannon and Ms. Hester, who teach those workshops, those courses, have kind of asked us to hold off on the specific times because it somewhat depends on the number that we get. Sometimes if it's a small number, we might combine or just have one group in each area. But if it gets to be large numbers, we might have 2 groups in math and 2 groups in reading. So we'll publish those times as we start seeing how the signups go. And those Sunday afternoons are really the reason that we do it on Sunday afternoons. And you probably have gotten this from your students, is it's about the only time that they have free. So, and soon it won't even be Sunday afternoons for some students.
I have one question. So if a high school student in UNCSA wants to apply college in UNCSA, is it easier or than the students from other schools? Or does it have any priorities than students from our school? Easier to get admitted to college?
It's a great question. It's so program specific and instructor specific. I mean, I would say certainly if your child is a student in good standing, it's going to be easier for your student to make that move. You know, because we them, and particularly if they're moving on to the same program, presumably they would be working with those same instructors. Of course, that's it's not possible for BA, but so it's somewhat program specific. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say the process is, and I've been talking with students this week about that are applying here. You apply just like you did for high school, except you're applying using the college application. We still have to do those things that we would for any school, like teacher recommendations, transcripts. We have to get that transcript from my office to the registrar's office, and usually that's by campus mail. So we have to go through that process. I will say that if a student if UNCSA for college is something that a student wants to pursue, I encourage them that senior year to talk with their studio teacher or their dance faculty or their VA faculty or their drama faculty and let them know, and they'll give them some feedback. And that if it's a student, that feedback might be great. Your juries and music will count as your audition. Or if you're a dancer, we'll waive the audition. Or that conversation might, I think you could be better served at another place, given your skill level. Maybe in music, you've been here since a 9th grader, and it's just time to have a different instruction, different mentor, faculty member teaching you. So
as my understand, it's totally up to the instructor, the studio instructor.
It comes down to being accepted into that conservatory, just like for high school. Yeah. At the college level, things are a bit different here. It's more of a true conservatory experience. There is a Division of Liberal Arts component to the BFA, but it is a small component. And if a student wants to have a exposure to perhaps business classes or education classes, they're not going to find that here. It's all about the art. Which can be a great thing for some students, but it might be for a student that they want to try other things, or they want to double major in something, and just wouldn't have that opportunity here.
Sorry, I felt like I was interrupting. This is not an academic question, but it's a question about, and maybe this is being covered, I wasn't in orientation, but I'm wondering about cell phone use and students' well-being, and because I keep on campus and seeing kids just sort of like, basically bumping their heads into trees. And obviously when you're at home, you have a kid at home, you can regulate and say, okay, it's 8:30 or whatever time it is that a parent selects, hand it over or turn it off. I'm wondering if that's an issue here on campus, if you guys have addressed it, if it's just what the wellness component is or what the...
Yes, it's.
You want me to walk that question?
No. It's a great question. We wrestled with that question since I arrived, and I'm sure we were wrestling with it before. At least as an academic faculty, we've had a number of conversations about cell phone use, and particularly cell phone use in the classroom, and what kind of standards we as adults want to adhere to, and then insist on from our students. And we sort of keep landing at the same place, which is use of any device in the classroom should be at the teacher's direction and for instructional purposes only. And so that's the expectation. And we keep having the conversation because, some of us need help, committing and recommitting to it. I guess in the last 2 years, we've made the policy consequences a little more serious, that we've specified that a device may be confiscated and turned over to us, and that at a certain point, if it keeps happening, you'll lose cell phone privileges on the hall. And that's sort of where we are to try to help on our end.
So from our end, we do a lot of education on cyberbullying specifically. We address it in the high school experience day that we worked with high school academics, was it 2 Fridays ago now, to address cyberbullying and what type of community the students want to create and that they want to be a part of and want to live in. And then we continue to have that ongoing education about that subject that'll come up again in an assembly meeting in a few months as well, to kind of formally go back over that conversation. As far as in their social lives and what we're seeing in the high school, I don't really see it's not that isolating cell phone use that I would kind of expect, where they're kind of all sitting in a room. When you think of like a family dinner nowadays and everyone's kind of sitting on their phone. They don't really do that when they're in the common spaces, when they're at programs, when they're hanging out. They're really engaged with each other, and it doesn't seem to be one of those isolating experiences that they're having.
Concern specifically is I have a friend who has a student who just graduated, and I was hearing tales from on the weekend about staying up till 3 a.m, binge watching on computer, and just like the level of addiction that goes with it. And I mean, relatability is certainly a concern, but you're telling me that's not something that you observe.
Not that I see, but we have the students who stay up until 3 a.m. playing video games. We have the students who stay up till 3 a.m. watching Netflix. We have the students who stay up till 3 a.m. Watching YouTube videos. We have those students, but after curfew check, they're kind of at that. The conversation we try to have during visiting days before they're even students is having those conversations with your specific student about what your expectations are of them. And then when we have the students that we have had students where that staying up till 3 a.m. playing video games has become so apparent that, academics is like, what's going on with the student? And we're like, what's going on with the student? And then it comes forward that the roommate, it's finally like, we finally get it through the grapevine. The roommate's like, yeah, they're playing video games till 3 a.m. Then we do have those conversations with them and help them come up with time management techniques and things like that. But that is usually once it's gotten to that severe stage.
As educators, is there any class or any forum where you're addressing the nature of addiction and say how cell phone use, the radiation affects your cell development and frontal lobe development and all of that stuff that's going on with teenagers?
You might want to have that class for their parents. I'm serious. They are what we have allowed them to be up to this point. And that's different for everybody that's in this room. Whatever, when Mom were in junior high, there was a basket and it was dropped in the basket at night. But you're not in junior high anymore. At some point, it has to be a personal responsibility.
In terms of the addiction question, we speak to that within the student life curriculum. And, it was, I would say, an issue of many that were present in that high school experience day that we do keep coming back to, but we don't currently have a standalone course deals with that. I will say something that we implemented last year was just an online reporting form for adults for care cases. And so if we see a kid in class who's fallen asleep, on a chronic basis or any other sort of care issue, we fill out this online form, and then that student is on the agenda of the student support team, which meets every other week. So, we're paying attention and trying to coordinate that in helpful ways. And then, an outcome of that meeting would be some sort of care solution, or might be, monitoring for the next week, until we determine what's going on. But that's what we do.
But if anyone, I don't know if this is just general concern or you have a concern about your student, but if anyone has concerns of that nature and you want us, we do have an RHC whose focus is health and wellness and can have those conversations with students. We do passive programming around it, and we have some intentional stuff around it. But if there are specific concerns, we're happy to help too.
It's not, I just,
somebody
scared the day
that.
Yeah, some schools have, I guess there are these lock bags that you collect phones every day and you lock them at the end of the day. We're not really set up for that right now, and I'm not sure that we could be, but.
I think my ideal would be not necessarily a lockbox, but maybe if part of the science class was, okay, this is the nature of your brain right now as a teenager. You don't have a frontal lobe, so expecting you to put the phone down is a really unrealistic thing necessarily. Like just the science behind it and the consequences and the outcome. I think that would be my ideal.
Hearing it from somebody else is not.
Yes.
No, I think
because I know nothing.
They are hearing that message.
They are.
And then device use, as a larger community concern too, not just the health of the individual.
There you go.
And yeah.
Thank you. I've taken that one.
No, it's
That's a good question.
Important question.
Yeah.
A remote question. I understand the students are using Naviance this year to help with managing the college application process. Is it clear to tell in Naviance when materials such as transcripts, recommendations, etc., have been submitted to the colleges? Yes, it will be. So if when a student looks on their Naviance, if they've been matched with the common application, which many students have, we've been working the past 2 weeks through workshops and one-on-one meetings. There's still some students that need to go through that process. You'll be able to see the letters have been requested, and you'll be able to see when they've been downloaded. That information also, if they're using the Common App, be on the Common Application when things have been received. So yes.
There was another question about parent and family weekend. And so through conferring with my cell phone from Michaela, who's right there, so this year is something exciting that we're trying to do is homecoming. So students, we have been asking about some different things. And so we're going to have homecoming this year. And it's kind of a focus on homecoming here. So parent and family weekend is going to, so student government will have their spirit week, and then we will have a plethora of events that will be happening that Michaela is currently running on. But then we are also having a schedule that has all of the arts things as well. So Michaela's reaching out, and now she's going to give them a deadline of when to get that stuff to us so that we can get it all in one place and have a schedule for you all. And then Martin and Brock will be giving out the parent-teacher conference schedule as well. So we'll put on there it won't probably be specific to each person, but we'll have like a general schedule for everyone. I know drama does some skits, and I think VA might have a couple things to do. So there's some things going on that weekend that we'll try to get it all in one place and get it out to you. And according to our decision of deadlines and stuff we're going to give everyone, we're trying to get that out by September 14th or 15th so that it's a complete schedule for that weekend.
You've done the Eventbrite before, and I don't know if you did it. I mean, I know my daughter was a freshman that was on there. Is that a possibility where we can just plod through very easily and have it on our phones and take it with us, where you have all the things listed on Eventbrite?
Sure. We haven't used Eventbrite since I've been here. Sometimes it gets a little, they use it over the summer. Yeah, they use it over the summer, and sometimes it's a little bit sticky, but we can look into that to see if there's an electronic way that we can also have outside of just a printed schedule.
Do you know when, like, the beginning of the weekend would be? Is it Friday with the parent-teacher conference? That's it. Okay.
do you know what you already have scheduled for that?
It'll just be the parent-teacher conferences.
And a
then
dance.
The dance will be on Saturday night.
Okay.
Basically, everything that traditionally happens during parent and family weekend, it will continue to happen. The only thing that's really additional is to have a semi-formal homecoming dance for the kids, because that's something they've kind of asked for. So it's really just kind of taking a little rebrand of parent and family weekend and making everything very concise and clear and happening in this order and putting one big schedule together.
Gotcha.
I just wondered for commuter students, how does family weekend work? Like how involved, is it kind of the same as everything where they're allowed to show up to all the events the same way, but just
they're not just allowed, they're encouraged. Yeah. So everything is open. All the events that we have, you're welcome to come. They're welcome to come. We would love for you all to be on campus and be a part of that weekend.
Are we going to be able to have our PSO parent thing?
And we're going to be adding on a cocktail party for the parents that the PSO is going to invite everybody to.
Awesome. If y'all
we're still waiting for the complete schedule, though, to figure out the perfect time to do that. And in fact, I'm wondering if during the dance.
That might be
a dance at 9 p.m. though.
Yeah, we'll start the dance at 9.
Yeah, so we may do it a little earlier.
maybe you all pre-game for the dance.
Yeah, exactly. Although we're trying to, if it is alcohol, we're keeping students out. So
there's a question about transportation. That would be a transportation specific question. It's set transportation assistant for students in the Winston-Salem Symphony Youth Orchestra for performances at Stevens and Wake Forest. That would be a transportation question specifically. If it's not something that's sponsored by the music department, then it's likely that they did not set up the transportation for Stevens Center and Wake Forest. So it would be individuals setting up. I don't know how many students are in that, and if it 10 to 15. So if the music department has set something that they could potentially set something up, or you all could reach out to transportation to set up transportation. If you need help with that, we set up transportation all the time for the trips that we do. So we're happy to help, but I don't know the details. So
There's about 10 or 12 students.
Yeah.
It's one time at Wake, 4 times the students are.
When's the first one?
November 5th is the weekend, so there's 2 rehearsals before that at Stevens and then the performance.
It would.
do you know who the music faculty is that oversees?
There's no music
It's
faculty. Charlie Bryant is and the Winston-Salem Symphony is
Okay.
So it's Jessica Morales, the assistant conductor of the Winston-Salem Symphony and the conductor of the Youth Symphony.
Okay.
And they often send out a list of people in the area that we can work out carpools with. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
If you all are interested in getting transportation, 10 to 12, they could do a minibus easily. I would just need to know how many students would need to go, and I can reach out to David Winkleman and see if he can help me out with that too. So I'm happy to communicate with transportation if needed.
I can forward you that schedule if you want to see the
That'd be
rehearsal
great.
dates.
That'd be great.
Resource question. So given these kids are pretty fully booked, like they've got a lot going on, might be a little bit of a change for new students coming in. Do you offer any like coaching or any resources for time management and getting used to that adjustment?
What's the date on that? It's September 12th, I believe, is the first time management workshop in the high school. It's from, I believe, 8:30 to 10:30. And that is hosted by our graduate assistant for student success. And she will be doing those almost monthly. They'll vary from the first one's time management, then there's like test taking skills. It's always kind of an open study. So if someone just needs to be held accountable to 2 hours of study time, they can come and just sit in and do whatever they need to get done. There'll be SAT stuff. Brock gave us some of the sample workbooks and stuff. So we have some of those to provide for SAT, ACT stuff. So there's that we'll be putting on as well.
We also have 2 faculty members on 3rd, 4th grade, part of whose job is to have open times when students can come and meet with them. So there's a math center, specifically for math help. And then Mr. Bohannon helps with writing, but also generally study skills and planning and that kind of thing. So there are those 2 people with dedicated time in their schedule to help with that as well. Might be a little easier to access.
There's been a lot of questions on the PSO page about activities that High School Life provides and things like these classes that are provided through the high school. And I know some of you are on the PSO page, and this might also be something you could do, but parents have been sharing that. Like, I follow you on Instagram, for example, but not all parents know you have an account. Is there a way to get those little, it could be snapshots, because that's what I had, is your activity calendars. Because there's also been concerns about new students having trouble making friends, and then parents know things are available, they could encourage their student to go, especially here early on. But those things were on the PSO page. Parents would at least know and could.
Absolutely. I think we can, Michaela sends that calendar out. We send it usually before the first of the month for that following month. I know she just got all the dates and printed the calendars for September yesterday. So we can send those to Jennifer and then
happy to do
help share those.
How does the student find those activities?
They're there's a stack of calendars at the front desk for commuters, and then all the residential students get one passed out at curfew check to their room.
Okay, so she needs to go by the desk thing.
Or they're also on the Instagram and the Facebook page.
They're posted in residence hall everywhere
Mhm.
too.
Okay, she's a commuter.
I-
That's what I want to make sure that.
I'm working with the PLs this year to be better about making sure the commuter PLs to be, because they have a board on third floor gray, the commuter PLs do, where they post all kinds of information. This year I'm being more intentional about making sure they get copies of everything with events on it that I'm posting in the halls. Yesterday I just gave a commuter PL 2 copies of that calendar to post on that board on grade 3.
Okay, and they come out at the beginning of the month.
Yeah,
So
I
she
usually
needs
try to
go
get them
there.
a day before the first of every month, so
And that
September
has
calendars.
things like this Wednesday, PSAT or time management.
It has
or-
anything that's happening outside, so the PSAT dates and stuff like that wouldn't be on there. The SAT dates I don't think are on there. But things that like programmatic things and events that are happening in high school life are all on there. And she can follow the High School Life Instagram. There's also a High School Life Facebook page if going physically to those locations is a challenge. Which I know that
If they're lying in bed with their phone.
Right.
And they can't move.
Right, it's, yeah.
High school life is degrees.
Michaela, do you want to share the
The
handles?
Instagram is UNCSA_HS Life, and that's where we post all of those things.
Underscore what?
HS Life.
Sorry.
The only problem I've noticed with that is that, it's not necessarily chronological Instagram newsfeed, right? And so sometimes things will
Can miss
come
it.
up that were posted 8 hours ago, but my kid doesn't have Instagram. So I look at it and try to make sure that I can let him know if something's happening. But, it was posted 8 hours ago and now it's
So we'll
over.
I post the calendar at the end of every month or at the beginning of every month. Tomorrow I'll post the September calendar.
Cool.
And then I post a lot of day-to-day stuff advertising the things that are happening that day. And I usually try to do it as soon as I get in the office or around lunchtime so that it is enough time so students know, this is happening today.
Mhm.
I actually, while I was sitting here, just put on our Instagram story about our bonfire we're having tonight.
Great.
But it's also on that calendar that they can always scroll back to and look.
Thank you.
Has there been any further movement? I know there was a discussion about for commuter students possibly having a text stream.
That I don't know.
Because I still maintain that commuter students just miss out on so much. I know you're trying, but it's not coming across in a way that's getting through to them.
I know that last year we used the Remind Me app, and that could be potentially something if the commuter students, but they would have to opt in.
Right.
So they would have to, it's still going to be some on their part to seek out that information.
All right.
So and that'll be up to the commuter PLs.
When I talked to them about it during orientation, they got super excited over the potential of a text stream, something more direct that kids wouldn't have to opt into. Is that an impossibility?
Yes, because I don't have a way to just do a text from anywhere without this, like the students giving there. It'd have to be, the Remind Me app is the only way really to do something like that.
What about student email, like just send an email to the student
We
population?
we do that often. And I have a student, high school students on campus and high school students off campus. I have 2 separate listservs and everything goes to both of them. But they also just they aren't really checking their emails regularly, which
There
is
you go.
also
There you
why
go.
I
There
do
you
an
go.
email program every year that it's like everybody is going to get an email at some point this semester on a random day at a random time, and then they're going to have 24 hours to come to the desk and collect their prize. And I told them all that at orientation, hoping that they check their email to come collect their prize, because they don't check it every 24 hours, they could miss their prize.
Well, if they're commuter and they're coming out of, say, public school system here, teachers aren't really using email or anything, but Remind, they are using, so you're perhaps a chunk of your commuter students are already programmed to, use the Remind app.
Okay.
So just FYI.
Okay.
I have a remote question again about Naviance. So Naviance is it's a web-based college application management program that we've purchased. It's our first year with it. It does have a parent portal login capability that, as we've kind of triaged our priorities with getting Naviance up and running this year, we're about there. It requires us to have IT's cooperation with data feed, with emails and information, so we're not manually inputting the information. They're working on it, and they assured us that after they get to this first of the year college and high school opening rush with IT issues, that it's on their list to do. So we'll have a data feed with parent names and emails. And at that point, we can send passwords that are unique to parents of juniors and seniors, and they will be able to log on. Particularly helpful for seniors, parents I know. And as we begin to develop that and build on our use of Naviance, it should also be a good tool to do some college matching and college search. We're not quite there with it yet. Our priorities right now with Naviance are making sure that it's linked up and matched with the Common Application, because so many students are using the Common Application, making sure we're being able to process transcript requests and to make sure that our letters of recommendation are being downloaded and processed. So we'll haven't forgot about the parents on Naviance, and it'll come soon.
Our parent weekend conference date set. Yeah, it's on the master calendar, but those dates are October 19th and 20th. 19th is the Friday, and that's the day that we'll schedule parent-teacher conferences. October. I wanted to make a quick mention. Everyone's going to get an email from me today. We're trying to shift a lot of the announcements that you've been getting from me and Friday emails to MySA and coordinate that with Student Life. So there will be a parent MySA email that's going to start going out periodically that would be kind of a comprehensive list of those announcements, things like the SAT, other events that are upcoming, and reserve the emails that I probably will not be sending out every Friday, but periodically to deal with maybe some issues of more substance, not to take away from the SAT. The one I'm going to send out today, in mid-September, we're going to do an active threat or active shooter drill on the 3rd floor of grade. We're going to do that at 1:30 during the 1:30 classes, which is when we have our highest volume of students in class. And then the students who are not in an academic class at that time, it means they have a free period, and we assign them to classes to go to make sure that they're part of that experience. We're doing a refresher training of adults in our faculty meeting next Wednesday for that, and then the teachers all have a script that they're going to be going through with each of their classes to talk about some classroom specific considerations for these drills, because our classrooms are all different. And just provide a forum for students to ask questions about how it's going to play out, and even why we might be doing this, and current best practice should the unthinkable happen, which is if you can, run away and not lock down. So I just wanted you to know that that's coming up. I'm not putting that date out to you. It's going to be in mid-September, and then after it happens, I'll sort of give you a report on how it went and ask you for feedback. If you hear things from your students about how it went, we're trying to make it as helpful as it can possibly be, and find that balance between giving some focus time to thinking about that sort of thing without also overwhelming them and us. So help us, give us feedback about how we're doing with hitting that balance.
There will also be one in the residence halls for residential students in the same time frame.
For the students' preparation, they will also be getting a message from campus police and the high school assembly next Wednesday. And I'll be at that one too, as part of that presentation. We know of one student that has some event like this in their past, but you know, if your child or you know of another child for whom this might be, you know, triggering a really traumatic event, just the drill itself, please let us know. I mean, we think we've got our bases covered, but we just want to be sure.
Could you speak about the recent fire drills?
We've not had fire drills.
Not had fire drills.
You mean
those are fire alarms going on?
Alarms.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Those are
Sorry,
actual.
wrong word. Now can you speak about the fire alarms?
Yes, I can tell you my staff thoroughly enjoy them at 1 a.m.
So does my daughter.
Yeah, they're mostly popcorn
related.
I think there was steam from a straight and ready this year. Yeah, they're all random.
All good.
There's not been any fire. There's not been any smoking, but it's been the food and steam and hair related things.
Thank you.
Mac and cheese requires water. That's new for every student who ever opens up one of the little tubs. You gotta put water in it.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah, do you know any other things besides those that have caused them? this
They
year?
like those aromatherapy things,
Oh,
like
the
the drops the diffusers.
The steam from those.
Some of those will do it. It depends on where they put it in the room and how high the settings are. I don't know how those things work, but those things do it sometimes.
We had
I'm not complaining.
I'm sorry.
We do drills.
We had one alarm during the academic day, which was a mistake by the folks testing the alarms.
We do drills every semester, and we haven't even had one yet.
Okay.
'Cause we do want to train them like where they're supposed to go and where we count them. And it happens every year that we have many fire alarms before we get to the drill. So
how did they know? I mean,
we just shout at them. Go to the parking lot. Go to that parking lot. Yeah, that's about.
Their PLs and returning students also
and
know those
they'll walk
places.
them
They
there.
just
So
follow the crowd. So, but they've been really good.
They've been really good about
clearing
fire
the
drills.
building
Yeah.
under 5 minutes, getting out.
Good.
They've been doing really good at that.
Well,
so.
it made the headlines the next morning. Mom, you'll never guess.
Yeah. The first one's always especially for students their first year living, away from home. Like, so parents, you should start doing them at home to prepare them for college. If they're commuter students, just set your fire alarm off and prepare them at 3 a.m.
Also, practice making mac and cheese.
Yes, that is key as well.
Somebody sent a really puzzling question from the looks on your face.
Long.
Okay.
Say while Rachel's reading, thanks for coming. This is a great turnout, and I hope if you're able, either remotely or in person, you'll be able to come to the arts program specific one, when we'll have the experts on the music admissions process for college versus VAs, dance. So those are all coming.
Starting next week, 1 week from today is dance.
So do you want to remind everyone, you said something about RSVP?
Yes, if
for
you
people
could go.
who are on the Facebook and didn't see that, where do we just send Mitzi an
If you
email?
can send that out when you send the reminder note, please let us know. I mean, do you feel like it? I just sort of feel a little badly about people sitting on the floor. Like,
Sure.
are
Yeah, I
RSVPs
didn't
helpful?
RSVP, I didn't know
Yeah,
too, so maybe it's an oversight.
I think it was only on the Facebook page that it said please RSVP, no place else that we
Which never
posted
saw
that
that,
did
so,
it. So,
yeah.
you know, we got about a quarter of you who actually did that. So back to Mitzi, because Mitzi has so much time on her hands. She needs something else to do. Yeah, sorry about that.
So the question from email is about drug use in the high school community. And yeah, we talked about this at orientation at the parent dinner extensively. And we do our very best. We do room checks every 2 weeks. We see every room every night, but we don't have the ability to be with every student at all hours of the day. And so the question is saying, are they testing their boundaries and their love? That's a little bit of what it is. They're, you know, this newfound freedom, and they're testing it out. And so the best advice that we continue to give is having conversations with your student, your expectations, and what that looks like, and how you maintain those expectations is a conversation for you and your student. When students are found with drugs, alcohol, tobacco, any violation of those policies, there are extensive repercussions. But like I said, they're going to do what they're going to do, whether they're with us or they're with you or they're at the mall with their friends. And so kind of having that conversation, setting those expectations. The question also talks a little bit about like the student's terrified of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And we talked about that at High School Experience Day, where we actually, we showed kind of, you remember those, that ABC show, What Would You Do? We did that with the students, and we filmed a situation where students are drinking and said, okay, what would you do if you were this student who walked in on that? And we had them think through what they would do. We gave them 4 options to choose from, but then we also had them talk amongst themselves about what they would do, and kind of just gave them, like Martin said with the active shooter drill, gave them to the space to think through what their options are and what they would do. So I encourage you all to they've now had that experience, so you can have that conversation with them about this. So now that you've had a chance to be at school for a while, have you seen drug use? Have you seen alcohol use? And what would you do in that situation? Do you know what your resources are? Leaving, going and telling a staff member, making it anonymous calls and emails this year. There are ways to do that. There are also ways to tell us and we keep the student anonymous. So there are resources, and the students holding each other accountable. They've been so fantastic about telling us what's going on. And so just, I know in my class on High School Experience Day, one of the students said, well, snitches get stitches. And I said, well, not in this case, because we're not telling anyone who you are, and you'd rather have a safe community, and that's the community you want to create and be a part of. So doing nothing is the only bad option.
That's right.
Whether you tell your parents, you tell us, you leave the room, you pour out the alcohol. The biggest thing we were trying to get across in that High School Experience Day with those What Would You Do videos is that you do something. And so hopefully the students got that message. And then if you want to talk to me specifically about situations your students experiencing, I'm happy to help you process that, talk about solutions, options for the student, so that they can make sure that they know what those are and feel like they're prepared if they walk into that situation. The next question is about signing out at the desk. And so we do have a fair number of students who we talk to parents from their cell phones. Sometimes if there's a large group of students at the desk, it's faster and easier than us having to look up phone numbers and call. If that's a concern and you want to talk more about that, I'm happy to. I will be in this first parent MySA that's going out. There are some desk procedures and desk hours and things like that we go over, so students know. This one's specifically asking about leaving on a Saturday morning, and on Saturdays and Sundays the desks don't open until noon. So students will need to sign out on Friday night to do that. So that's all coming out in this parent MySA that will be in a couple weeks, or in a week, couple days.
high
Yeah.
school students aren't allowed to have any access to anything.
Thanks, folks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Happy Labor Day.